The Open Source Chat Show, Hacktoberfest Special, every Friday, October 2021, brought to you by Women Who Code Frontend. So, hi, hello everyone. Welcome to another episode of Women Who Code Presents, the Hacktoberfest Special Open Source Chat Show. So this is our fourth episode today, and next week, it's end of October, and we will have a wrap up. But otherwise, it's just wanted to do some quick housekeeping stuff related to Women Who Code. We are an inclusive community, and our events are intended to inspire women to excel in technology careers. Our mission is mainly inspiring women to excel in technology careers, and our vision is a world where diverse women are better represented as engineers and tech leaders. Values include, inclusion being at the core, like you see, and the target is mainly engineers with 2 or more years of experience looking for support and resources to strengthen their influence and level up in their careers. So currently, Women Who Code has about 290,000 members spread out in 70 networks in 20 countries. Given the pandemic, most of the stuff shifted digitally, and that's how we were able to increase our reach. Movement has been way mainly that to be a connecting force that creates a sense of belonging, while the world is being asked to isolate. For this chat show, so far we've had four speakers, and a quick recap. In this episode, Kavya and Pragati shared tips about how to choose open source projects itself. We all agreed that it can be a little overwhelming, but its patience is the key, and the sky is the limit. And open source is for everyone. That's where we concluded. And last week, we had another great session with Kashish and Vani, and we looked into some non-traditional ways of contributing to open source itself. So both of them had contributed to open source in different ways, and it was not just writing code. So Vani especially did like a lot of research work, and took part in social media promotion for the Outreachy project that she participated, and Kashish, who now works at Microsoft, but has been mainly mentoring and participating in various open source activities. So building community, driving it, and mentoring for hackathons, etc. So which was quite interesting. So the chat went very well. The YouTube video for this one has not been updated yet, so I've been running a little slow on schedule, but I hope to finish it today, and maybe early next week it should be there. And for today, we have again two great speakers, so Ruchi Pakhle and Temitope Akinsoto. Um, Ruchi, I pinged her on Twitter, and so she gladly accepted to speak. So thank you, Ruchi. And Temi, I mentored Temi when he was a MLH fellow. And again, Temi, thank you. Tami, I hope it's okay that I bring this up because you had this concern that of all the speaker lineup that I put up, everyone were women except Tami. So he was little concerned. I don't know. So sorry, Tami, for bringing this up without your concern. But I wanted to tell thank you for accepting. So I was telling Tami that of all the people that I reached out to, so I did reach out to like in an equal proportion, women and male, but only Tami got back to me. So I don't know if this is fortunate or unfortunate, like fortunate for us. So I don't know how Tami sees this, but again, like, Tami, we are an inclusive community. So although it's like Women Who Code, we do have like speakers who are not women, or it's we try to bring in diverse speakers here. But thank you. Do you want to add something here, Tami?
No, it's fine. I think you've said everything. It's fine. Thank you.
Great. But yeah, thank you again, both Ruchi and Temi. So we will talk more about or get to know more about Ruchi and Temi's open source experiences, and also we will try to touch up on a topic about pros and cons of working remotely itself. So I think the biggest challenge currently is now that everything is shifted remotely, even the side projects are like, it's like becomes more of an extension to our ongoing work. So we will talk a little bit about, the challenges associated with that, or what are the pros and cons. So mainly like, dealing with remote work and the different time zones itself. So that will be like the theme for this week. And some other stuff is that Women Who Code is putting up a Connect Forward, and as a member or a participant of this, you get 50% off your member ticket. So you can use the promo code dub code front end. And yeah, I think this is also like a great event to connect, or to connect to a broader audience within the Women Who Code event itself. It's happening virtually November 18th and November 19th. And yeah, you can follow our work, upcoming events on womenwhocode.com/frontend, and we are active on social media. And yeah, so without further delay, I will present to you Ruchi and Temi. So you can tell us about, yeah, give us a brief intro about yourself, what you do, what you like doing, and why, how did you get into open source? So Ruchi, would you like to go first?
Yeah, sure. So thank you for having me. And hello, everyone. I'm Ruchi Pakhle, currently pursuing my bachelor's degree in computer science engineering with 9.88 GPA. I'm currently exploring web dev, and I'm into web dev majorly, like the front end part. So I'm a regular contributor to open source projects. I have worked on several open source projects, including like Eagle Script Summer of Code for Portfolio Script Foundation, and I'm currently now contributing to Moja Global and Script Fellow under Script Foundation for their project Hack OV8 right now. So apart from that, I enjoy creating content and engaging with my community by organizing sessions as a beta Microsoft Learn Student ambassador. So yeah, that's like a brief intro about me.
Great. Yeah. Thank you, Ruchi. I just wanted to check your audio connection because there was like some sort of disturbance as you're talking. So yeah, is there something that you can avoid, or did you hear this additional disruption as well?
I don't know about disruption, but am I audible now properly?
Yes, now it's fine. Yes.
Yeah, so I guess there might be some network issue from
Okay,
my
cool. No
side.
problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry like for that.
No. That's okay. I just wanted to make sure that you knew, and yeah, I guess this is fine.
Yeah.
Nothing to be sorry about. Yeah, cool. Yo, thank you for introducing. Yeah, giving us an introduction. Tammy, yeah, how about you?
Okay, thanks Priscilla for having me, and hello everyone. My name is Temitope Akinsoto. That's a mouthful, so you can just call me Timmy. That's what my friends call me. They call me Timmy. Timmy is fine. I'm a full stack software developer, but I have a preference for front end. I think I enjoy translating designs into finished products more than working on the back end. I'm a grad of Lambda School Coding Bootcamp. I'm not sure if some of you know what Lambda School, but some coding bootcamp out there where you're taught how to code and stuff like that. But originally, I'm a graduate of biochemistry. Um, Somewhere along the line, after graduating, I went to volunteer my service for some NGO. Then I sort of like stumbled into tech, and I've not looked back ever since. Uh, I think in 2020, I had the opportunity of contributing to open source, which I think would get more into. And I was able to, do my little part, and I had the opportunity of meeting amazing people like Princia. And so I'm here, and I look forward to sharing my experience with you all. Thank you.
Great. Yeah. Thanks, Tammy. My next question is, why did you choose open source? So what does open source mean to you, or what is that motivated you or triggered you to contribute to open source? Ruchi.
So yes, so why did I choose open source? So like I always loved contributing to this huge repos and understanding the code basis. So that was my first reason of contributing in open source. I get into open source through the Girl Scout Summer of Code. So I was like a beginner when I was like in the program as a contributor. So I learned many things like the best practices or the beginners guide to start open source with. Open source like according to me enables us to learn, interact with the community, and also guide other students after you're decent enough contributing there. So you have an active grasp over your dev skills, which like in terms helps you later. So like I believe that open source is fun and everyone should try at least like before making a decision of whether to continue or not. Because like afterwards when we are in the company, dev skills are going to be there. So open source, getting acquainted with open source in our like early stage would only add up a brownie point to later. So yeah, that is my take.
Cool. Yeah. Thanks, Ruchi and Temi. Yeah. It's what motivated you.
Okay, so for me, one of the things that motivated me was that I wanted to be able to contribute to the community. I mean, it's something that, as a developer, you'd always want to do. Because as a developer, all the time you're Googling stuff, you're leveraging people's ideas, people's solutions to do what you need to do on a daily basis. Then I also felt at some point that it would be nice to be able to also contribute to the open source community and contribute whatever knowledge I thought I had at that time, into something that was way bigger than just me as one individual developer. And so for me, that was like the major reason why I wanted to do open source. And then of course, as at that time, I just graduated from my coding bootcamp and I was looking for some real world experience and exposure and some huge code bases, something shiny, that I can put on my resume and sort of like, add to my bragging sheet and talk about the things that I've done. So for me, those were like the two major reasons why I wanted to do open source. First, on one hand, I wanted to contribute to some technology, out there that is being used and see how I can, add, just advance whatever stage it's at and make it better using the knowledge that I have and also gain some experience while doing that and, gain some skills along the way that I can add to my resume that would sort of like project me in a better light. So those were like the two reasons why I wanted to do open source and I was able to achieve both at the end of my open source contribution.
Cool. Yes, I think that's a very good motivation. Last week the speakers shared was that sometimes use open source and without even knowing like how you're contributing. So usage of these open source libraries or the code itself is also like indirectly contributing, right? So because you're learning indirectly, you're taking something out of it. So I think it's a good way for each one of us to have our own motivation for open source. I guess, Tammy, you can go first on this. Tell us about your MLH experience itself. So, like, how was it? Do you recommend this for others? And how did you end up with MLH?
Okay, yeah, excuse me. So the first, to answer the question you asked, the last, yes, I'd recommend MLH to everyone here because MLH makes open source contribution fun. Now, there's open source contribution and then there's fun. Then there's MLH that takes both and combine them together. So yes, I'd recommend MLH for everyone. You can go ahead and Google MLH Fellowship. The information is out there. So my experience with the MLH is amazing. I remember going into the MLH Fellowship and wondering, do I have enough knowledge to be able to get this? Like, I was second guessing myself all the time. But I just kept showing up and just kept doing what I needed to do. Beginning with the application process, it was a detailed application process. I remember after way, I kept thinking, oh my God, maybe I should just let this go and just go on with other things. But somehow, I stuck through with it, and I scaled through the interview process, and then I was in my pod. What I like about the MLH fellowship is that it doesn't matter where you are, in terms of your knowledge, what you know, what skill level you're at. There's a place for you, and if you're able to sort of like leverage the pod or the community that you find yourself, then you realize that you'll be able to you do more than you thought you could do. And so for me, starting from my pod members to my pod leader to the mentors and the maintainers, it was amazing. I had some rough experiences along the way, which I believe we might have the opportunity to talk about. But for the most part, I think my experience was nice. And I also got paid, contributing to open source. I didn't see that coming. But yes, I was paid. I got some swags. I learned I learned from, because there was this thing we had in our pod group called Show and Tell, where every week someone in the group would take some topic, go ahead and research on that topic, and then come teach everyone else in the pod. It was a nice way to sort of like level up on so many things that you did not know. So we had people talking about blockchain, people talking about cryptos, people talking about security, things I had no idea about coming into the MLA fellowship. So leaving, I had all these topics that I'd learned from my pod members, And when your fellow student is teaching you something, they come down to your level. And so you're able to ask questions to sort of like wrap your head around whatever it is that you're trying to talk about. And then you leave that session better than you came into it. So yeah, it's been amazing. I can go on, but for the sake of time, I just want to wrap it up here. So yeah, it was fun, and I learned a lot during my MLH fellowship experience.
Great. Yes. Yeah. I think yeah, this has been yeah, in the past on the second episode we had Pragati, who also was an MLH fellow, and yeah, I guess it's totally recommended if at all you're looking for paid internships. And Ruchi, yeah, tell us about your experience, like, contributing to Girl Script or one of the open source associations that you've been part of.
Yeah, so like I was a part of Script Summer of Code, and my open source journey started from right there. So like it was a beginner thing for me, and I'm glad like I was a part of it, as I got to learn so many things, new things out of the box. And open source is like always learning and learning. Like you got so much to learn through just making through some beginner to intermediate contributions. You get to know how to navigate through large code bases. Like then you get to know the best practices of Git and GitHub and many other things. Like for me it was like being consistent, because I used to get overwhelmed by seeing the amount of code and setting up the repo. But like after doing that again and again, I got a good grasp over it, and now like I'm so much into open source, exploring new programs, ways to mentor and contribute as well. So like I'm also a maintainer, like for the Moja Global Docs team, for like under the Hacktoberfest, and also like maintainer of the Mentor community blog for the Hacktoberfest. So yeah, you like when you start with open source, you would never know, like the opportunities are like never ending. You would get so much things to learn and interact with the community. So yeah.
Cool. Yes. Yes, I think yeah, that's definitely good. And yeah, thank you both for sharing your experience. Yeah, Fatima said, Tammy, can you also talk about your experience? Yeah, I think let's put this towards the end if we have time. I think yeah, Tammy mainly mentioned his MLH kind of experience. So Fatima, do you have like anything in particular, like more about the experience, because he briefly spoke about his experience. Just let us know if you want any particular question that you want Tammy to answer about MLH. Cool. So moving forward, the next question is what's your next plan for open source, right? So uh, you've been contributing, so MLH and Girl Script, Ruchi, you. So how do you plan to
Yeah.
continue contributions, or how do you plan to stay connected? Are you like, already staying connected with your previous contributions, or have you like, have new doors open to you? So tell us a bit more on this. Yeah, Tammy, you can go first.
Okay, so after my open source contribution with the MLH program, I've really not been able to sort of like stay in touch with the community because I've had to work. But there's anything that I'm trying to do over the next few months is to reconnect with the community by becoming maybe a pod leader, because I feel that I have some experiences that I can share. And I also have a background in leadership. Um, and like, Fatima was asking, I had some funny, well, I don't want to say rough. I prefer to use the word funny, but you could use funny as a placeholder and put rough there. I had some rough experiences during my contribution that, looking back now, it made me sort of like understand better how to guide someone else into contributing to open source. So yeah, I intend to maybe in the future work as a pod leader or some type of mentor to other people that are looking to contribute to the open source community, especially the first timers, so that I can share my experiences with them, share my mistakes, share, sort of like guide them on things to avoid and things to look out for if they want to have a great open source contribution experience. So that's the plan for me over the next maybe few months, few years.
Cool. Yeah. Great. And Ruchi, what's your take on this?
Yeah. So like I'm gonna contributing to open source, like as it makes me learn new things and get hands-on on my skills, which I wouldn't get otherwise. And there are a lot of programs upcoming like Google Summer of Code, Google Summer of Documentation, and Linux Foundation, like mentees, like LFX one. So yeah, I'm planning to try these things out, like next year, in probably. So let's see, like what is for my like what is told for me. So yeah, these are my plans.
Great. Yeah, that's good. I think yeah, it's you don't have to like be obliged to stay continued, but I guess there's the thing about open source. So once you're into open source, it's like you're forever into open source. You'll find like multiple ways itself to stay connected, to contribute. So
Yeah.
it's good that yeah, people like still give back to the community one way or the other. Fatima, to add to the rough part, yeah, the hardest thing, I think on behalf of a mentor, I can tell, or at least one of the common problems of all the fellows or the participants is time management, because most of the fellows do internships part-time, meaning they have to balance active university work, or also some fellows also had another ongoing internship, and plus they were doing MLH internship, for example. So the time management, what I saw, was one of the hardest thing that most of the fellows struggled with initially, I would say, because they didn't know, or they didn't know if this was okay. So I guess as mentor, or as mentors, we were trying to tell them that's fine, like sometimes exams are there, you need to take care of that. Sometimes other priorities are there, and sometimes like there was also the sickness, right, given the pandemic, so people were sick, etc, etc. The key to dealing with this is just being communicative about it, and not being shy. So I think also the other thing was not knowing, thinking that you're only the person going through this, and assuming that like if at all you tell or underperform, what will others think? So it's, I think this was okay, this was taken into account, as long as yeah, you were communicative enough, and yeah, and then like knew how to manage your time well. So yeah, Tammy, you can just add to this if you have like any other inputs on the rough part, I would say.
Absolutely. Just to add to what you said, Princia, I think you were spot on. Personally, for me, one of the challenges that I had technical challenges. So in my pod, I was like the only person using a Windows machine. Okay, a lot of my other pod members were using Macs, right? And so it was a struggle for me to set up the project on my machine locally. And it wasn't like it was a big deal, okay? Because like Princia mentioned, the maintainers, the pod leaders, the mentors, they are aware that technical issues might come up in your journey. And so in a way, there's like room for that, right? But the challenge is you as a contributor, you need to be easy with yourself. I was very critical with myself. Like, I mean, I would not give myself the time of day. I was always thinking, what is wrong with me? Why am I not getting this stuff? Why am I not? But why? Like, I was, I was being uneasy with myself. And then, thank God, I had a very understanding. So I contributed to two projects, which I might get into later. I had a very understanding mentor, Chris Ewald, who was able to sort of like calm me down and reassure me that, look, you're not doing badly as you think. Just take it easy. And then he was supportive all the way. And so what happened was I tried to get another machine to see if I could set up my application. I could not do that. Then I got transferred to Princia. Princia was also amazing. To cut the long story short, I was able to navigate all of that problem by, setting up the project locally, and then I was able to go ahead and contribute. But during the early stage of my contribution, I felt very bad. I felt like I was lagging behind. I felt like I was not good enough. So I was struggling with all of these feelings, and it really got to me. But I was able to navigate all of that because I had this amazing support from my pod leader, my pod members, and of course the mentors and the maintainers of the project. So that's one of the things, one of the rough experiences that I had. There's like so many others, but for the sake of time, I may not be able to get into the details. But that one particular experience is one that I think is worth sharing and is worth learning from as well.
Cool. Yeah, great. Great. Yeah, Fatima says that's what you wanted to know. And yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's what tips you have for like, first timers looking to contribute to open source, Ruchi?
So yeah, I agree with Timmy. Like, don't get blown up by large code bases. Just go through them properly once and understand the context behind it fully before jumping onto the issues. Then be consistent while you are contributing. Don't let go like your PR is not being reviewed and hence you would not contribute further. So no, you need to be patient because there are so many PRs and there are so many reviews for the maintainer to make. So have patience as it might take some time for the maintainers to review your PR and get back to you. So don't be rude there. Be polite. Then have a basic idea of how Git and GitHub works, like the cloning, forking part, pushing and pulling. So yeah, these are the things like for the first contributors, I would be like these are my tips for them because I faced the same issues. Like my PR was not being getting reviewed for months and I was like having no idea of where is my contribution heading to. So yeah, and I was like the major problem was setting up the whole repository or the code base locally. That was the major problem experienced almost by us. So yeah, don't worry about that, you would get through it. Just be patient and yeah, things would work out for you after a time.
Great. Yeah. And Timmy?
Yeah, I think I agree with Ruchi on being patient. You definitely need to be patient. It's not, don't feel like you're in competition with anyone. So for me, like tips that I'd like to share, the first thing is you need to get the right mindset coming into open source contribution. And what is the mindset? The mindset is not that, you are this incredible 10x programmer and it's all about you, you know everything. No, that's not the mindset to have. When you're coming into open source, at least when you're coming, well, for me, into the MLH fellowship, come with the mindset that you're coming in to learn. You're coming in to learn from people who are better than you. Okay. And so if you come with that mindset, it doesn't matter what challenges you're going through, you see it as an opportunity to learn. That's one. Number two would be that don't feel like you're not good enough. The fact that you have the opportunity to contribute, okay, means that you've been vetted by some, individuals who set some processes in place to check if you're good enough. And so what you know is enough. You may think you don't know so much. No one can know everything. And so we're all at different, in the spectrum of, software engineering knowledge, we're like at different places. So where you are in that spectrum is okay, provided you have the right mindset, the mindset to learn and to also serve. When you come in with that mindset, it doesn't matter. You definitely leave better than you came in. And then before you get into the contribution itself, try to understand the project that you're like assigned to. Try to understand, like have an high-level overview of the project. It can look overwhelming, at first. Your first few meetings, you definitely sit there and not understand what is being said. I felt that way, like I felt like I was the stupidest person in the room, but I wasn't. It was just because I needed some time to sort of like wrap my head around the project and what needed to be done. So, and that's the first thing that you need to do if you're going to be able to successfully contribute. You want to understand if it's some open source project from maybe Adobe or wherever, what is the task that needs to be solved? Try to break it down and be able to relate with it. Then, if you're able to do that, then you put yourself in a position where you can now ask lots of questions, which is like the next tip that I have. Don't be afraid to look stupid. Don't be afraid to ask questions. In fact, I'm beginning to learn in my career that the more effective programmers are the ones that ask questions, even the stupidest questions, because you'll be there in the group. The question they are thinking in your heart that you don't understand, there are people also who don't understand, but no one wants to look stupid. And so everyone is quiet. And then at the end of the day, we all look stupid because we don't know how to go about it. So don't be afraid to look stupid. Don't be afraid to look funny. Ask lots of questions. It will help you. So for example, if there's a project that we're supposed to contribute to, then I have an idea of what we want to do. Now I'm asking questions for myself. In the course of doing that, people are learning as well. Now, when I leave the meeting, there are actionable things that I can act on because number one, I have an idea of what we want to do. And then I've asked questions like blockers that I had in my head that I didn't know how to go about. I've asked. And then even when you're done, feel free to reach out to anybody, reach out to the mentors, reach out, just keep doing that. You'll be well on your way to contribute. Like you'll be amazed at the amount of contribution that you make because you already have the skill. You can write the code, even if you think you can't. When you're not able to break down those things into simpler steps, then you know how to be about, doing whatever it is that you need to do. So those are like my tips that I like to share.
Great. I think that's awesome advice, both Ruchi and Temi. And yeah, Temi, it's the thing about asking questions is spot on. I think especially for first timers, this is something yeah, it's often missed. And I think people take it on themselves to do like double the work when it's just easy to ask the question, I mean, I've done that. I've been there, so I can totally relate to this. But thanks for pointing this out again. That's wonderful. I think yeah, we are also like yeah, almost close to 40 minutes. I would just like to touch on another topic about yeah, Ruchi and Temi. If you can add your insights into this, would be good. It's mainly about the pros and cons of like contributing remotely. So what I'm trying to touch up is I guess everyone mainly has ended up working in a remote kind of environment, like a day-to-day work. Even education, universities have like ended up being virtual. I guess things are moving out slowly, but I guess majority of the norm, it's like virtual being first. So given that, what do you see the pros and cons of like to add another layer of like contributing to side projects via open source, which is again remote, and then you have to deal with multiple time zones. Would you have any thoughts on this? Yeah, who wants to go first? I guess I will let you pick.
Yeah, like Temi, you can go first. Like, also, can you just brief out what you said? I had network issues, so I did not hear you completely. So, like,
Great.
side projects, what?
Yes, yeah. So to rephrase, what I was saying is, what do you see the pros and cons of remote work itself? So, given that everything mainly has shifted to a virtual kind of environment, be it online classes or be it online, work from home itself. And now there is this additional layer coming in, open source contributions, which otherwise was like a side project. So which was good, given that, yeah, you had more of interactions to the outside world, and then having like a side project connecting to remote kind of folks was good. But now everything is happening in a remote kind of world, right? So do you see any pros and cons in this kind of new way of like work setup?
Okay, so I will go first now. So yeah, like I feel being remote is like always good. You have lots of time as well, but like in the cons part, we won't get interaction, like in-person interactions are, are much less in remote, and a workload is also like more in remote, because we have like entire day with us, and we tend to like sit in front of the laptop whole day. So these are some of the cons. But yeah, like amidst this pandemic, traveling and stuff, to risk out from this stuff, remote is like much suitable. But yeah, like if you are okay with it, I don't think like it would make an issue. Also about the side projects part, I believe that while you're contributing to open source, you should maintain like your side projects, like although not daily, but once in a month you should develop something like very small, a small game application or a to-do list, or like simple stuff which will help you out daily. So this would like also boost up your portfolio, and you can put them in the side projects part as well. So yeah, this is my take on it.
Great, thank you, Ruchi, and yeah, Tammy. Yeah, it's pros and cons of remote, or otherwise maybe you can also touch up a little bit about working with remote time zones itself, like the pros and cons of you being in one time zone, and yeah, these contributions, or this kind of setup happening in a different time zone. So what challenges do you see there?
Mm. Okay, if I understand the question correctly, I think remote work is a bit tricky. It's fun in the sense that you have this complete control over your time. You can decide, okay, in the morning, I'm just going to do other stuff, and then I'll code later at night. That's fine. And then I'll commit whatever I've done to GitHub so that someone else can review, blah, blah, blah. And so the fact that you have complete control over your time is just awesome. It means you can decide that you want to play for the entire day. Say you're someone who likes to work at night, you can decide to do other stuff during the day and then do your work, your major work at night, right? Um, the cons to that is that it reduces your ability to collaborate effectively with other people. And so there are times when you'd want to pair program with other people, for example. Maybe there's a bug they're trying to review, and you've been looking at it for hours. It happens to even the best of us, right? Sometimes what you just need is an extra pair of eyes to just look at your code and be like, oh, there's a curly brace missing somewhere. Like, how come I didn't know that? It's normal, it happens. Now, because you're working across multiple time zones, you may not be able to do that in real time. And that in itself is one of the cons of remote work and working across multiple time zone. Another thing that I think I don't like about remote work is that there is no clear line between your personal life and your work life. And so half of the time, you can't even tell if you're serious or you're not serious. I'm talking about myself, okay? You're on the bed, just typing away, and then before you know it, you jump on some other website and you're doing other. So Unlike when you're in a physical location where, there's this sense, there's this feedback that, hey, you're in an office environment, you can't afford to go to XYZ website, or you can't afford to do XYZ stuff. In a remote setting, there's no telling. And so what that does is that it makes you sort of like model things up. So you're like merging personal life and then your work life, and then there's no clear dichotomy, there's no line. And what the challenge with that is sometimes it can make you burn out without even realizing, and burnout is real. I mean, it's real, and if you're not very smart with the way you manage yourself and manage your time, you'd notice that you may go through periods where you're not so motivated, you're demotivated to look at code, to learn new stuff. You feel like you're not so enthusiastic to learn, which itself is a sign that maybe you're doing things the wrong way. Maybe you should sort of like establish a regimented lifestyle where you know that from X amount of time to X amount of time you're working, and then from so amount of time to so amount of time you're learning. A regimented lifestyle would help in this sense. I think it comes down to being able to manage yourself and then manage your time. As soon as you're able to do that, you won't have any problem with remote work, and then combining remote work with other side projects. In this case, maybe open source contribution and so on and so forth.
Yes, I think that's another great point. Something which it's like it's a challenge that I see as well, to set up boundaries, and it's time management, of course. There was a question from Sunita here. In the open source projects you've contributed, have you had to deal with people not being helpful or not getting your contribution accepted? Curious if most of what you have contributed has been accepted. In my case, I've only contributed to projects after knowing about them. So I've not had a situation where contributions were not accepted, but curious to hear anyone else experience otherwise. Ruchi or Temi, have you had experience where you tried contributing and those contributions were not accepted, or maybe folks were not helpful for you?
Uh, like for me, I always try always see the context first, and then I jump into contributions. So no, like in my case the PR has been not merged. Yeah, when I was contributing to Girl Script, it happened like by the time I was making a PR, already someone did. So yeah, this was so there I've used to step back, and I said like I alone used to close my issue or stuff. So yeah, that is there. But if you left for the context first and then contribute, then I don't think your PR would ever get rejected. Yeah, maintainers would review that and suggest some changes if they feel. But I don't think PR gets unmerged or closed without informing. So yeah.
Yeah, good point. And Sunita, you wanted to add any context to this question itself?
Nothing specific. I was just curious because I feel like this might be one of the reasons that people may not want to contribute, kind of thing, or they may be hesitant.
Yeah.
So that's why I was curious, since
I've
had experience with it.
Right. Yeah, I've had some sort of toxicity, or just some sort of rude behavior, etc. But I guess I was a little mature enough to already identify or sort of ignore. But it's true, like what you're saying, if folks come new and they experience this kind of thing suddenly, then it may be like a red flag and they may not want to come here, which is why I guess it's good to start contributing with communities that or people you're aware of, rather than directly entering into an entire stranger's world, unless you're totally comfortable with that. I guess some tip for first timers, in case if that helps. Sunita. Great. Then I think we are almost close to time. I got all my questions answered. So thank you again, Ruchi and Temi. Anyone else wants to add anything? Or yeah, Temi and Ruchi, do you want to conclude with like a one-liner about it's like, what would be like your evergreen sort of advice in one line for open source contributors? Ruchi, yeah, maybe you can go. You're on mute, Ruchi. Okay, okay.
Am I audible?
Yes, now you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So like, how did I get into tech is the question you asked, right?
No, I was just saying, yeah, last one line advice about open source or anything in general about tech.
Okay. So like, yeah, the last thing I would want to say is like, be consistent and don't freak out while contributing. Keep a track of what is going on there and be like active there. Like you would get huge contributions there as well. And yeah, in the tech side, there are so many opportunities, programs going on. So keep an eye and like try being a part of those. So yeah, that is my take.
Okay, so for me, maybe not a one-liner, but just a thought that I like to leave you with. So if you're thinking of getting into open source and you're scared, now that's a good feeling. Or if you get into an open source project and you feel like you're not good enough, that's also a good feeling. You have to recognize that that's a feedback, from your brain telling you, hey, you're in a space where I don't know how to navigate. Okay, you're in sort of like an uncharted territory. And that's the space where you get to learn and grow the most. So don't recognize it for what it's not. It doesn't mean you're stupid or you're dumb or you're not good enough. It just means you're in a space where things are new, and so it's an opportunity for you to learn and grow. So go out there, get uncomfortable, grow and learn. That's just what I have to say.
Great. Yes, I think yeah, that's like a great ending or a great conclusion. So thanks both Ruchi and Tami for adding all your valuable insights and sharing all experiences, rough times, good times, advice for first timers itself. Yeah, thank you, Sunita, for the kind words. I think, yeah, we are almost done. So about to wrap up. Anyone, any questions or any feedback? And yeah, we will upload on YouTube. So keep an eye on Women Who Code YouTube playlist. So I can quickly share the link of the current playlist. It's yeah. So this is our playlist. I guess, yeah, you should be seeing the 3 episodes that those are uploaded. Sunita also has done a great intro for GitHub for beginners itself. That's also great. But otherwise, yeah, thank you both, Tami and Ruchi. Thank you for like coming, sharing. And yeah, thank you for all those who joined. And for the others, yeah, we will upload on YouTube. Great. Then, yeah, I wish you a nice weekend. And next week, we'll have 2 sessions actually. One is the episode of the chat show itself with 2 additional speakers. And then we'll have a special wrap up of the Hacktoberfest month itself. So Emma from Microsoft, who leads the open source program office in Microsoft, will be joining us. And yeah, she'll be talking about, yeah, we will talk about open source, all things open source. So yeah, stay tuned. And otherwise, I wish you a great weekend and thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Ruchi, and thank you, Tami. Bye.
Bye.